I love cookies. I love cookies. I love cookies. I love cookies.
Welcome to Cookies, the world's most influential basketball podcast. I am Ben Dietrich. Jordan Rodelli is on vacation. But Andrew Kuo, he's here because he does not take any days off. Andrew Kuo, how are you, man?
I'm amazing this Wednesday. Thursday. Is it Monday? I must be on vacation because it's all the same to me. I feel incredible.
My understanding is that it's the freaking weekend.
Big Saturday plan for you? Anything going on?
I didn't get any shots up today, so I'm feeling like my jumper is withering since yesterday.
Was your jumper raining like all the thunderstorms cascading through New York City lately?
Limitless. Just the range it's goes on forever. I still have yet to actually play basketball, but I'm hoisting shots and I'm getting better by the day. That's what I understand. And this may be a new chapter of my life. I'm going to become a Gen X shooting sensation. I'm not going to have it as a function of being in basketball games. I'm just going to be a trick shooter, hoisting up 40-footers. That's my new dream.
Nice.
Yeah, I think it's going to be exciting. I'm happy to see how this turns out in this journey. So, have you left your house?
Not lately. I am still in the zone of being safe. And also, it really fits my life because there's things to do at home, and I don't really like hanging out on streets anymore. You know what I mean? Like, it looks awesome. I see people down the street, like, having a drink and eating pizza, but that part of my brain has evaporated.
Your chilling gene has atrophied. Chilling muscle?
The chilling muscle atrophied even before COVID. Adulthood hit me hard a few years ago, and I don't chill like I used to, man.
I would say you are probably in like the 1% now. Of like still live in quarantine.
Oh.
I know a few people, but you're one of very few who are like fighting the good fight.
Shout out to Pablo Torre, who I know is doing the same thing.
There's a few. I mean, you don't see them, so it's hard to quantify how many people are still like March mentality, that March madness, so to speak, in a future terminology.
The way I see it is I'm not hurting anybody and I'm not helping anybody, but I could be helping somebody, but I'm certainly not hurting anybody.
You're not hurting anyone.
No. And like,
except
life
for
is good.
Beloved businesses that you're letting perish without your needed support.
For sure. Yeah, I
like
mean,
the
life
Hudson
is
Yards. You could be up there
on that gyro,
doing stuff in the Hudson Yards to keep it afloat.
The gyro's closed until further notice. I am not one of those people who hate Hudson Yards. I kind of, when it went up, I kind of accepted it because Bloomberg had been talking about this thing for so long that it went up, and I was like, all right, it's up. Like, I know there is wealth in this world, and here's another example of it. But like, it wasn't particularly interesting. I talk about it in the past tense, right? The stores weren't cool. Shopping was like Neiman Marcus and like candy shops and a coffee. I think there was a Blue Bottle in there. It was okay. There was some cool art around. The gyro was funny to make fun of. The performance center, the shed was interesting. I guess people love to make fun of that. I don't know. I felt very agnostic about it, but it's been kind of a vibing off point lately.
It feels like a relic of a lost time. Not in the way of that was a cherished place. Almost like an alien structure. You see it and you're like, wow, it's a remnant of a future that never existed. It's a bit like Planet of the Apes, except instead of the Statue of Liberty, it's the Euro, as I pronounce it.
The Hall of New York City kind of feels like Planet of the Apes, but I do agree, man. Like, I think Hudson Yards reminds me of DJ Shadow, Nirvana. You think it's the beginning of something, but it's actually the end. Jabari Parker. It's like, what a young, exciting player. I'm like, oh, this is the end of this type of player.
Oh, introducing
Yeah,
the Hudson Yards.
yeah. You know, it's like Shadow Trip Hop are going to take the world by storm. And I'm like, oh, no, this is it. This is just it.
It's weird seeing it when you're driving down the West Side Highway because it really does look like alien slash Dubai architecture that somehow sprouted up when you weren't paying attention. And I always get this brief moment of non-recognition. I'm like, what the fuck is that? Oh, right. Hudson Yards, that odd wind sail that's floating up there on the west side. Very, very weird place. And it follows the way that COVID has worked, that it would be an absolute ghost town at this point.
I mean, if you're a food fan, Hudson Yards had a different kind of feel to it because there was things.
Was it a problem?
No, it was awesome.
Was it, was it an imbroglio? It's just different?
There was stuff to try, and people loved a lot of the stuff in there. David Chang's restaurant was a big hit. That whole Spanish kind of grocery store, food court.
I heard that was great food-wise. Was that,
Awesome.
Chef Andreas, I believe?
It was cool. And so if you were into food, there was things there that weren't as dark feeling. But also it was nice. Like, I gotta be honest, like seeing back in 2019 when there was a Neiman Marcus to go to, I'm like, I remember thinking this was such luxury growing up. And this is kind of like something that I thought always existed, and having that going away, like, you know, they closed down, declared bankruptcy. They might be back in some way, but I'm not sure. Like, again, I always knew there was wealth in this world, and Hudson Yards was just an example of that. But did it affect New York City in a bad way? Maybe, probably. I'm not sure. Probably. It was going to be
like, even walking down Fifth Avenue, you'd see all these stores that you don't shop at.
Oh, yeah.
But it's just part of the fabric of the city. Like, okay, it's Museum Mile, or strolling around. And like, okay, there's Gucci, there's Fendi, there's Prada. I don't go into those places. I'm not Kreayshawn.
I may. It's me, Ben, not Kreayshawn.
I guess she wouldn't go into those stores either, so I guess we're on the same page. But it just wasn't for me, but it was always sort of a totem of the immense wealth that surrounded New York City, whether it was tourists or people who lived here, that sort of like just luxurious customer base.
Yeah, and in the during the holidays, I would go and see the lights, you know, the Macy's stuff, and I would never go in Macy's. I think I bought like a North Face vest at the North Face flagship shop. There's an NBA shop there that I think I bought you a little like Coach's notebook there.
Yes, that's true.
With a leather-bound cover that I thought was very handsome. But yeah, man, and you know, it's fun to dump on Hudson Yards, but I just feel kind of sad about it because something went wrong in our world, and everything went a certain direction, and something like Hudson Yards doesn't really have the same shine to it.
Well, I think Hudson Yards was always a travesty in terms of how it came into creation, what it represented, and now it being, you know, a husk of more or less foreign wealth,
Yeah.
you know, sitting there on the Upper West Side.
Well, remember, it was going to be
Or not Upper West Side, but, you know, the West Side of Manhattan.
it was going to be a Jets stadium. So that kind of would have been worse. Remember when Bloomberg was trying to get
The Olympics,
Jets,
right?
Yeah, the Olympics and the Jets to play there. And people were like, no, the traffic's going to be insane. I'm like, that'll be kind of fun, like a bigger MSG. And Bloomberg just wanted the development. He was the developer guy, and I am no fan of Bloomberg, but also, like, is it cool to be a fan of a mayor? Like, your boy de Blasio isn't doing that great, you know?
My man to them.
Yeah, David Dinkins is just my guy. You know, it's just like, the mayors exist to get criticized.
You know, I mean, the Hudson Yards doesn't really bother me that much. I think it's it stands for stuff that I really dislike, but it's not part of my cognizance in any way,
Yeah.
other than, as I said, literally seeing it and forgetting what it is.
Yeah.
I don't think about it. I don't go there. I've never met anyone who lives there. It's just completely irrelevant. And in some ways, I mean, I don't like it, but it's kind of fascinating. It's just a
Yeah.
fake part of New York City that has no bearing on my life whatsoever.
Yeah, you're right. I think if anything, to me, it's a curiosity. I went there, when it first opened, and I was like, this does not feel like New York City at all. And there's certain markings of it. There's like a makeshift, like Instagram ready museum in there, and there's places to buy. Like there was a cell phone, Wi-Fi free cafe there. It's like this is all interesting in concept, but it's just more interesting as like kind of a bad idea, And when you look at what New York City has done with the 9/11 locations, it feels the same way. And you're like, oh, I understand your vision here. This giant Apple store in this like in the cavity of Moby Dick, It is. I love that building. That building is so cool. Shout out to Milwaukee. That architect did the museum there. It looks awesome, like the inside rib cage of a large fish. But I think New York City did a great job with the 9/11 location, but also it is like shopping and commerce that isn't like for me and you per se,
Yeah, and tourism. It's fascinating now to see a city in the summer with no tourists.
Dude, it's crazy.
I was around yesterday, the corner of First and First on a Friday at 10 p.m. And there was no one. No one. There was people sitting outside of some restaurants and a couple of people walking by, but other than that, no one. And you think about that intersection on a normal Saturday night, it's one of the most well-trafficked in terms of people walking around, people lining up to get into bars. It's mobbed. I mean, it's unsavory how crowded it is on a typical Friday in August or July, anytime in the summer. No one. So when you said this Hudson Yards doesn't feel like New York, in many ways New York doesn't feel like New York in the version that we've seen over the last few years. And I think there's been a change in tenor of the way people are viewing New York City, especially with the winter coming up. And I think when we first shut the city down in March, and we know people fled, people went upstate, second homes, just left the city. And it was viewed as weathering the storm. Go up there for a couple months and come back. And I think a lot of people are too scared to come back. And we've seen now this sort of drumbeat in media about moving out of New York, moving to the suburbs. We haven't ever really seen that since we've been in New York City. There's been the occasional story about, going up to the Catskills and starting a kale farm, or, your weekend getaway up in Hudson. But like the idea of just like leaving New York and moving to the suburbs, I don't think that's been like a topic of discussion in New York for the last 2 decades.
Yeah, and my parents were part of the generation that were immigrants and saw the suburbs as kind of the place to go. And you're right. Since then, I think people have been populating New York, and I've been watching a lot of Jerry Salt's videos. He's promoting a book. He's like for people who don't know, he's an art critic for New York Magazine, formerly the New York Times. I've been really enjoying what he has to say about COVID in terms of the art world, and it kind of spreads everywhere. And what he said that really resonated with me is the advantage New York City always had was its density. I could walk out of the street onto the street after this pod is over, and I might run into you, and you'd be like, yo, what's up? What'd you think of that last pod? Like, nothing. I gotta run. See you in a day or two. And we kind of had this social structure of density where we just lived on top of each other and had relationships, and this was a uniquely distinctly New York advantage, I think, in living here. But now with COVID, that advantage has been taken away from us. and this is the chance for the rest of like the world, but like upstate and surrounding tri-state areas, like New York is at its most weakened state. Our the things that make Manhattan and Brooklyn and the Bronx and Harlem special have been stripped from us. And it's really interesting to see, and this is gruel for journalists, but it's interesting to see how that affects real estate, because the whole foundation of neighborhoods is based off of like perceived value of your living situation, and the money your boy de Blasio puts into it. We are at a distinct disadvantage until the foreseeable future.
And I think something has changed in that we viewed this as a temporary situation where we'd get a vaccine, New York would go back to normal, and we'd continue on. And now that you're seeing places close and you're seeing people move out, you're seeing unemployment surging in places that you just mentioned, like the Bronx, East New York, all over, but specifically hard hit in certain neighborhoods. There'll almost inevitably be a rise in crime as a result of poverty. There are a lot of things that are happening that you wonder, if there's a vaccine, is it, okay, we're back to normal, everyone can come back? Or are we looking at something different here? And I think that's the tea leaves that are encouraging people to say, you know what, I'm going to move to Connecticut. I'm going to move to the suburbs because this is too uncertain. And for the first time in those 2 decades, there's a fear of New York City that there never was, going back to that era of like David Dinkins, of Giuliani coming in. People were scared of New York City. And that has dissipated over the last couple decades. And now it's back. And I think that might not just change when we get a vaccine. This might last for a little while.
Yeah, I agree. It's really difficult to tell because there's so many moving parts with what kind of vaccine we get. What will be the reaction to that vaccine? Will our economy look salvageable? Will it be okay? And I think we talk about, me and you always talk about certain things being accelerationists and acting like accelerants for something that was already happening. And I think COVID has proven that to be true and untrue, but mostly true, I think. And my fear is, and you can kind of see it, I think rich people are going to gobble up this real estate in the way that NYU gobbled up East Village real estate. As you can hear the honking, the streets are going wild over here in Manhattan, lower Manhattan. But I think the danger is people with means and with the motivation to carpe diem, seize the day of COVID, are going to really benefit from it moving forward. And I don't know how to stop it. I don't know if it should be stopped because, like you said, people are bailing on Manhattan for a good reason. They're just like, I don't believe in this thing anymore. I believe in something else now, which is totally fair. And that thing may be the Hudson,
But are they betting against a constant is the question, right? Are they saying, all right, I'm uncomfortable here. A lot of my friends aren't around. I'm not sure what's happening with the schools. Let me get out. Let me bail. And then in a year and a half, 2 years, things go back to normal, and they're saying, wait, what did I just do?
That's the fear, right? That this is a Knicks lesson that we've all learned. Beware action sometimes, and I think moving upstate is totally understandable and even awesome. I spent some time up there a few weeks ago visiting some friends and who moved, and it was beautiful, man. I think it was a cool choice to make, especially with like taxes in schools, and when you have kids, like life changes, and they don't care about eating pizza and drinking a beer on the street, even though it sounds nice. Your priorities change as you grow older, and I don't see many young people moving away. I see people with different priorities moving away. And
right. And again, it's easy to make that decision when there aren't restaurants or galleries or movie theaters, where there's no indoor spaces because the city is virtually unrecognizable in a lot of ways. But, when you talk to people who are still here and still hanging out and socializing, and there is a feeling of, is this going to be our version of the 80s? I don't know. But that's definitely a sentiment that I've been hearing from people, where they're saying, everyone's leaving. Is this where we're going to get good apartments? Is this where we're going to have an art scene in Manhattan that has not been there for 15 years? Is it now? I don't know.
I would chime in and say that that's an impossibility. I don't think there's going to be anything that resembles something that happened 30 years ago. And the main reason is technology. And I think a lot of the motivation that we see people use to justify moving away is you can conduct business virtually now, or, there are ways to handle a sort of isolation, if you consider it that,
Well, I think that plays into the theory, though, is that, well, why would any Wall Street people be here anymore?
But then why would any artists be here anymore?
Well, they'd be here, theoretically, that they'd be here in the way that they are in Berlin. That would be that's the theory, that New York will have creative people, but you won't necessarily have Wall Street bankers. You won't have tourism, that it becomes a different style of city because it is feared and because people can work remotely.
Yeah, I think creative people is a really underfunded asset of society. Like, I just think it's ridiculously underrated. But like when we talk about opportunity for creative people to do their thing, it's confusing, right? Because the 80s had their struggles too. Artists in the 80s have as many horror stories as there are for. There's one Basquiat, let's be honest. There's one Keith Haring. There's one Talking Heads, and then there's everyone else who just suffered a little bit to create their art, because the infrastructure has never been quite there. And I think when we say New York City is kind of more open, like, single bedrooms are still going for $2,500 a month. Like, it's not. You can't live for cheap. You still have to pay money to live in a single bedroom in Chinatown. The prices are going down, but we're talking like, do you have means to pay for this apartment?
Right, and I don't think people are saying it's happening yet. It's more like, could this happen? Where, especially going into the winter, because even myself, looking at another winter indoors, because I just don't see how you can open restaurants and bars and galleries and indoor spaces safely, in where you take your mask off, specifically bars and restaurants. I don't know how palatable January, February, March, back indoors in the dark in New York City sounds.
Well,
and I think you'll see a lot of people fleeing over the next couple months.
I am prepared for chaos at the end of October, because as our president has told us, he is ready to drop a vaccine, whatever vaccine that may be, before the election. So that will be something to talk about when that happens. That will be chaotic, and that will have us scrambling, and we don't know where the dust will settle after that, right?
Yeah, there's no way he's not going to announce a secret vaccine that's coming out like right after the election, or that there is
before.
one like the night of. There's a vaccine.
Yeah, I did it. It's called the Trump vaccine, right? He basically said it in an interview the other day. And why wouldn't he, right? If Putin's going to declare he has something very soon, it's been a couple weeks, he said a couple weeks, Trump has kind of nothing to lose. Well, that's a really complicated idea, because he doesn't care about anything, but except some things, but not the health of people. So he will try this, and that will be such a seismic, confusing thing that I don't know if we can talk about January, February, and March until that happens.
I know. And also, people I can't believe they're trying to mess with the post office to win this election. I'm like, What do you mean? They'll do anything, man.
Anything. Yeah.
Like, I'm sticking with that they will not necessarily contest an overwhelming decision, but they're going to fuck around as much as possible.
Yeah.
And if there is a way to steal this election, they're going to do it.
Yeah. I mean,
I don't know that it'll be announced from everyone that Trump lost and he says, "You know what? Screw it. I'm staying president." I'm not sure that would happen, but they will do everything. They will, if he's down 12 points in the poll, they'll try to push back the election. He will.
for sure.
I mean, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
Like, if you were Donald Trump and they're like, "You are getting hammered in Ohio, Pennsylvania, Florida by 12 points. The election is next week. What do we do? Push it. Push it real hard."
I think the thing that frustrates me is the news has to report what happens, and there has to be a bit of editorializing, and we're getting maybe a bit more than we should. But it's not the news' job to comment on naivete, so they just have to say what happens. Our reaction to me represents a lot of naivete where people are like, "Can you believe this?" I'm like, yo, listen, if Mitch McConnell went to Donald Trump and described him what a dictatorship was without using that word, Trump would be like, "That sounds good to me. Can we do it?" You know, like, nothing will stop him because he has no moral compass. So
He doesn't believe in any of the values that we even pretend to believe in.
yes, he thinks the federal government is him versus the rest of the country. It's as if Adam Silver was like, "Guys, I am King Kong, and you guys are just planes buzzing around me as I'm on Empire State Building." You know, it's like, no, you represent these governors and states. Your job is to listen to them and help them.
Wait. I think he's presidential now. He just said something presidential. I'm sorry. This is a new Trump. This is the gravitas really. Yeah. Oh no, he's threatening something again. Sorry. Carry on.
Yeah, man. Like, I have a new rule in the house, which is like maybe only a few hours of news a day, and I've been switching back to like maybe. Well, now Law and Order sucks. I can't go into my marathons. And thank goodness for the NBA, which I can turn on a game and have it just playing during the day. That's kind of cool. The news is just, it's not working, man.
All we really have right now is the hot new single from your girl Cardi B.
Warm ass pasta.
I believe it's called Wet Ass Pants. And Megan Thee Stallion.
Yes, yeah. Shout out to Cardi B, who does this stuff. She does stuff, and our cultural discussion just explodes. It's like when Elon Musk decides to name his kid, and we can't stop talking about it for 48 hours. I love these kinds of people.
What's been really engrossing about the dialogue surrounding warmed ass pasta? Is that what it was called?
Warm ass pasta, man. Warm ass. Is there a pasta that starts with the letter P? Pappardelle. There you go.
That's a good one. I was going to go with like provolone, just to.
Ooh.
What, a penne?
Oh, warm ass penne.
I watched the video. I thought it was cool. Like, it's sexually explicit, for sure. Doesn't really. It's not subtle. I didn't watch the video and be like, what are they getting at? Well, you know, what are they trying to prod?
What's the twist? Here? Yeah. Is this a dream?
I get that they want a warm ass pasta. Like, who doesn't? Unless you're talking about a pasta salad, but that's a different song.
Mm-hmm. Is Megan Thee Stallion a figment of Cardi B's imagination? Where's the M. Night Shyamalan about this video?
The first time I watched it, I didn't get it. The second time I realized Nicki Minaj in the video is dead.
Right.
So the whole video is a bit like the movie Ghost, where those interactions are just Megan Thee Stallion. But Cardi's actually kind of in her mind.
Yeah, if you missed it the first time, like give it another shot. Like it kind of reveals itself to you.
Yeah, not a lot left to the imagination. Not a lot of beating around the bush, so to speak.
Respect.
I didn't want to use that phrase, but here we are. The song's cool. I went outside this morning to grab coffee at about 8:30 in the morning, and someone was playing it really loud out front.
I like that.
So I was
It's
like-
an anthem, huh?
I was like, "Oh, you dropped warm ass provolone at 8:30 in the morning in your car? Go off."
No, it's like warm ass pancakes, man. It's the morning. Let's do this. Shout out to Shea Matan, those delicious fluffy pancakes.
They're just so warm.
Well, I don't like my pancakes hot, and you
No.
don't want your pancakes cold. No, it's about right.
But some of the criticism of the song was funny to me because it was just based on the fact that it's two women talking dirty. It's an obscene song. It's about sex. It's raunchy. And those kind of songs have existed for decades.
Lil' Kim was trending.
Yeah, exactly. And guys have made those kind of songs forever. Too Short, NWA. I mean, there's nothing new about a Two Live Crew. I mean, the cultural wars of the early 90s, Two Live Crew they were the one. It's like Florida versus Two Live Crew. And didn't it go to the Supreme Court?
Yo, Tipper Gore won that war, but like, what war was it? Because you still have the parental advisory sticker on all these albums in 2020,
Great
but we
win.
love it. It means not. It means like, check this out.
Ooh, iconic.
Yeah. It's just like, well, I don't want the clean version. Ah, yes, a stamp of approval. Thank you, Tipper.
Oh, a stamp of quality.
Pretty much, right?
Oh, this one looks like it's warm as gushy. I don't want that one. Can I get the one with a sticker, please? Ah, pancakes.
Yeah. I'm in love with a dancer.
But yeah, people were there. This is gonna be bad for the kids. Imagine you're a little girl hearing a song about pancakes, the boasts about your provolone and your penne. And I'm like, this has been going on for so long. Just have the courage to say, this offends me. You know, I don't have the stomach for it. I watched it. I'm offended. I'm sorry. I'm offended. The women are saying things about parking cars in garages, trucks in garages. It's a thinly veiled metaphor. I get it, and it offends me.
Yeah.
It doesn't hang. You can't bang. Ah, come on. I can't hear this anymore. Just say it's about you. That's my thing. Just say it's about you. Don't say it's for someone else's child. It's you. You don't like it. Because you grew up with the same music around and you don't like it. So how bad can it really be?
I have a
30 years ago, Two Live Crew was out there doing Me So Horny, and you turned out to be a prude. So you know what? The system works.
or you so horny. It's like I have this general vague bad rule in life. Whatever I or someone I know is fed up or hung up on is like what we hate about ourselves. For example, I really cannot stand my friends who are flaky, who like let me down, who can't decide what they want to do. Meanwhile, I'm the flakiest person I've ever met in my life, you know, and it's a very vague rule. So it's when someone's like, that song is too horny, I'm always like, well, how horny are you? Because Cardi B puts out a song and I'm like, this is a cool tune. I guess
Yeah.
I'm not that horny.
Yeah, I watched the video. I'm like, oh, they're both looking good.
yeah.
How'd they film this in quarantine?
Yeah.
How did this happen? How'd this come together? This is great. Oh, look at all the celebs they got.
Yeah.
This horny house seems fantastic. It's a house full of hoes.
What is coming to America? What is our country turning into where these like over sexualized videos are out? I watch it, I'm like, these two women are crushing it.
Yeah, there was a Republican lawmaker. It's like, I accidentally watched this movie, this video, Warm Ass Prosciutto. And I got to say, I watched it several times accidentally on repeat in my car, in my phone. I went home, drew the shades, watched it repeatedly some more. And I got to say, this is going to ruin the lives of young women in America.
My wife walked in. I was like, someone's in here watching a video doing their job. Please shut the door.
Did you put this on?
yeah. Someone else. It's spam. But, yeah, man, like, to me, right, to your point, I agree. It felt Nature is healing, right? That video came out, and I was like, "Oh, this is cool. It reminds me of Foxy Brown and Lil Kim and Hype Williams and music when I was younger." And I'm like, "This is cool." And then all the jokes on Twitter were funny. I had no issues with this, but also like I have no strong feelings about this subject. You know?
I was only struck by the repetition of the same arguments over and over and over and over. And I mean, it makes sense, but we're really talking about rap lyrics about sex in 2020, in the middle of a pandemic, with protests in the streets. That's
Yeah.
what's ruffled your feathers.
Yeah. I know.
Megan Thee Stallion talking sexy.
Although respect to people, this is a way for us to
Heel.
or this is a very human thing, right? Like, it's like, what about the pandemic? It's like, right, I know, but can I talk about, I don't know, the Knicks, you know? Like, how can you talk about the Knicks when there's a pandemic going on? I'm like, talk about the Knicks.
I mean, I do agree with you. I'm being facetious on that because I do think we can compartmentalize and we can multitask and we can talk about, warm ass Parmesan while we're also concerned about, I don't know, snitching on people in the park or whatever.
True.
My priorities.
Yes. But yeah, the same arguments. It straddles a line between comfort, because Charles Barkley is going to say the same things about the same things, and there's a level of frustration there. Like, can we evolve? Can we talk about this in like an evolutionary way, where we're not having the same discussions that we had about Lil Kim back in the day? You know.
And that was exactly where I wanted to go with this, because Charles Barkley, legendary boomer. Like the
Lovable boomer. I love him, but he's a damn girl master.
He wants to debate charcoal versus gas.
Come on, it's charcoal, right?
I don't know, man.
I would know.
Why are you asking me? Do I look like some kind of boomer?
Stuffing your Kiss Grill Master apron into the trash can.
Oh, this spatula? This is for indoor use only. couldn't use this on a grill.
Propane. What's propane? Home Depot. You're going to Home Depot?
So Barkley brought out his boomer cape again. Last night's bubble game between the Sixers and the Orlando Magic, in which he, yet again, because this is something that he has done previously, yelled about Joel Embiid not wanting it enough. And Joel
Draymond
Embiid,
Green was on the set, which was gruel.
and echoed the same sentiments about, well, why is this guy shooting jumpers when he could be getting his ass in the paint? And you're just, it's so tiresome, man.
Yeah.
It's the same stuff. You're still offended by rap lyrics in 2020. You're still offended by a 7-foot guy shooting threes in the year of our Lord 2020.
Yeah.
You don't like greasy rap lyrics about parking trucks in garages?
Well, I kind of had, there was a bit of a gray area because I regard Draymond Green as a basketball genius.
Same.
He is in that tier. So when he was talking about still a person in his a prime, just played meaningful basketball games a year ago, like when he says as a defender, I want Joe to take those shots because I don't have to worry about him doing the damage that he can do to me. I'm like, there's a truth there. There's kind of an honest defense truth to that, where it's like, I am a dishonest defender. I will not guard him when he takes that shot. But Joe is actually good at shooting. So it's kind of like a double-edged sword here.
So, yes, there is a distinction because I think Joel Embiid settles for mid-range jumpers too much. Mm-hmm. Barkley just doesn't like big men shooting threes.
He doesn't like shooting, period.
Those are two different things.
Yeah.
I don't have a problem with Embiid taking some jumpers. I do think he relies too much on his mid-range jumper, especially when there's a double team coming. He'll shoot through a double team instead of passing the ball out to someone for an open three. Sometimes. He's gotten better, I think.
Yeah. He bails himself
finding
out of possessions by chucking up shots.
Yeah, and there are times when I think he has an open three. He doesn't take it. He pump fakes. He takes one step in, and then he shoots a 15-footer. And I don't like those shots, and I know the numbers. You know, the numbers are not good. He's not a good shooter on pull-up jumpers. He's not great on mid-range jumpers either. He's sub 40%. So I do actually agree with Draymond on that. If you're guarding him, you can live or die with Embiid making long twos. He doesn't get to the foul line. He doesn't get easy baskets at the rim. He doesn't get easy points from the free throw stripe. So I agree with Draymond on that. But Barkley's thing is about desire. It's always about get your ass in the paint. Right. You got to want to dominate. Why are we still talking about wanting to dominate? And why does it only seem to apply to the Sixers? The conversations that are so retrograde, being offended by rap lyrics, are like about Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid. We don't even hear them about other players. It's just them. I don't know why. It's got to be something with a small, I don't know, emerald-colored claw.
I mean, we discussed this earlier. This goes back to Dr. J, to Iverson. It's a subtle cultural theme in NBA Twitter discussions, whatever, bar talk, barbershop talk. The Sixers have always been the ire of writers from Boston, and when Iverson came out and he had that little Cardi B energy a little bit, that me and you love, and that's why he became the logo, and that's why the NBA started with him when he was introduced into our lives.
In 1996.
In 1996, exactly. It still draws the ire. It's an easy tune to remember and to hum, right?
Yeah, it's almost as if a Pied Piper is on his little fife or his flute.
Yeah, the takes are magically delicious.
But yeah, again, it was a really, really boring boomer-ass talk about Joel Embiid following years of boomer talk about Ben Simmons. So let's talk about Ben for a little while. We don't know when he's coming back. So Simmons, the Sixers' other all-star, in
top 3 player.
Top 3. He had something happen to his kneecap. I forget the exact terminology. And I'll be honest, I'm sick of learning about obscure injuries via Sixer. But
his kneecap shifted on him.
Scapulas and things of different natures.
So his kneecap moved, and it kind of disrupted like a little bit of the cartilage and tendon that holds it in place, which is odd and very dangerous, or nothing. It's hard to tell. Doctors are like, we've seen this be 2 weeks or like end of someone's career. We don't know.
So he is out indefinitely, meaning maybe he'll return for the first round of the playoffs, or maybe we won't see him again until next season.
Sit him.
Just have no idea.
Yeah.
My immediate thoughts on this in terms of what it means for Philly was that I think they are correct in putting Al Horford back in the starting lineup. That's a no-brainer to me because Al Horford is good.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
And I would also say I don't think Simmons' injury has the impact of another team losing its all-star because the team is so poorly constructed. It's so redundant at the power forward position that going from Ben Simmons to Al Horford is about as good as you could go from an all-star to a bench player at anywhere in the entire NBA. You take an all-star of any team and put their backup in. Where are you getting like a 6-time all-star to back that guy up?
It's as if the lusty Elton Brand photo of him staring at a ravioli slice. He's looking past the ravioli slice. His view is so far.
The longest view in the room.
He's looking at the warm-ass pappardelle. It's incredible. What we thought is amazing.
He's like, look, I can't tell you guys this, but Simmons is going to hurt his kneecap. I can just sense it happening in the burger bubble. I know you don't know what the burger bubble is, but look, there's going to be a pandemic. There's going to be a burger bubble. Anyway, Simmons is going to be hurt, and we're going to have to start Horford at the 4 in the playoffs. Like this is how it's going to shake out. So just trust me. I know I'll take some mockery. You'll think I like large lads, that I have a kink. No, I just see the future.
Longest view in the room. Also, stacking players is smart. If you have, it's all inventory, and that summer, I think they chose the wrong. But it's not like Jimmy Butler is is active right now either. You know, like all this stuff is revisionist history. And Jimmy has changed as a player. You know, he's
Come on, stop apologizing for that nonsensical summer.
If they had Jimmy on the Sixers,
it made no sense at all.
They'd be champions.
It made no sense.
Yeah.
They would go to the 3 finals in a row.
Yeah. Although, not to bring this up, Zach Lowe mentioned Jimmy has stopped taking threes, which is interesting. Anyway, that's a different thing. But
yeah, he's found some morality. I respect it.
I think Jimmy Butler's like a top 10 player. So
yeah, he's great.
Yeah, I would gladly start a team with him.
Hey, other people can shoot threes. That's my philosophy.
Yeah,
Find someone else to shoot them.
But he's also good at shooting threes, so whatever.
He has been in the past. He's been terrible this year.
Yes, yeah, he's bad and has stopped. It's weird, but anyway, yeah, the Simmons injury is interesting to me because optically, you know, we've had a lot of people on Twitter say that are the Sixers better without Simmons?
Well, my thing is that there is less redundancy. That's true because you have one less guy who plays at that same position.
It's if you ordered a ravioli pie and someone has picked off all the ravioli.
But again, I think they are uniquely in position to not suffer horrifically because of Al Horford. I don't know if Shake Milton can handle shot creation. You know,
Maybe not.
It really is just going to go through Embiid all the time, over and over and over. And I think there's going to be some times when they're not going to get great looks. Because if Embiid can't beat his man, there aren't a lot of guys in that team who can. And can beat their man in a way that opens up the floor for other people. And even, I mean, it's all kind of besides the point now, but even watching Simmons at the 4, I didn't really like it. I like Simmons playing the same way he was, but with different personnel around him. Not Shake Milton bring the ball up and put Simmons in the post. Because if you've got one of the best passers in the league,
Yes.
you want him passing the ball. What's the best way of phrasing it? There's a cost to cutting off his touches, and it's that he
His
creates
attacks.
plays.
Yeah.
You know, and Shake can bring the ball up the court, and I think he's a good passer. He's an okay ball handler. He can certainly shoot, but you just don't get those weirdo plays that Ben Simmons and only Ben Simmons can make, where he veers off to the wing and sets a hard pick and opens up a 3 out of nothing, or where he plunges the ball kind of to the lane, turns around, and flips it back to Al Horford.
Yeah,
Like, you just don't get those shots, and his potential assists were way down, and those definitely result of being off ball.
Yeah, and, you know, I immediately think of Pau Gasol in the triangle or Lamar Odom and the Phil Jackson kind of point forward offenses, and the Sixers weren't quite running that. And I was a little disappointed seeing Ben watch Shake bring the ball up and then toss an entry pass into Joe. I was like, it's a shame because you have maybe the apex basketball genius, LeBron, my bad, the second tier basketball genius in the league.
And you're using him
Yes, you're taking
as
away.
like Trez.
Yeah,
Like,
or
do some
something better,
posting up.
but yeah.
I don't mean all the time, because
Yeah.
you'd see these bursts where all of a sudden he'd get the ball and be in transition, and it would go back to how it's supposed to be, and it would be like popping, and then suddenly start hitting threes and stuff.
Yeah.
But they were not shooting enough threes, and that was clearly a result of they can't generate them without Simmons touching the ball a lot.
Who
So,
generated the most points, value from threes in the league?
I mean, he generated the most threes, period, until he got hurt.
Yeah.
And the most value from him, but the most.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So I think lineups without Embiid are going to be pretty hard pressed to generate good offense.
Might be ugly. Might be some.
And I don't think they'll be great on defense either.
Yeah, I mean, Simmons going down, I would like to put maybe a fork in it. I don't think the Sixers are good enough to beat the elite teams in this weird-ass bubble. I don't even know what I'm watching anymore. Like, is this real or not? But whatever this is, I don't think the Sixers, without their best player, can win the championship.
I mean, Simmons and Embiid together with a patchwork ensemble around them, Tobias Harris pitching in, I think they had a chance to win a title.
Oh, of course. Yes. Yeah, I agree.
There are teams that are better than them. Most teams make more sense. You know, the Sixers cosplay front office did one of the worst jobs in contemporary basketball history of assembling a roster that made sense on the court, but you still had two of the three best players in the Eastern Conference. That can get you to the finals.
Pelinka, man, he didn't do anything, and he's prime.
Yeah, and I don't really worry that much about the Lakers shooting terribly. That just feels like a couple games. I could be wrong, but I'm not really that interested in the results from the bubble right now. It feels like we're just tossing aside what's happened for several months of the season and being like, Phoenix Suns, they're awesome now. Like, are they?
No.
I think they're cool. I'm glad they're winning games, but are they awesome?
I mean,
they've been around all year. We didn't like them then. No one gave a shit about them, and all of a sudden they're winning games. I'm like, Phoenix. This is such a success story.
well, we thought that way when they got started out of the gate hot, right? Like they had a good first month, and we're like, Phoenix Suns out of purgatory. No, back into purgatory. But I have a question for you.
But I mean, prior to this, they were something like 26-38 or something.
No,
Like they were not a good team. They got hot here and won a couple games, and we're like, Phoenix, they're building something there. Yeah. Maybe.
Yeah,
I don't know. I like Booker. I hope Ayton works out. I'm just saying, let's not judge teams off of 4 games.
Well, my question to you was, we saw Jaren Jackson Jr. Rupture his cartilage, which was, to me, a little tragic because I'm a huge fan. We saw your boy Ben Simmons with a knee injury, and we saw your dude, Jonathan Isaac, go down with a knee injury. And we hadn't seen, like, a rash of these injuries like we used to in the aughts and the 90s. My question to you, Ben, is the burger bubble some sci-fi time machine? Or is this 2020 that we're watching? Because we're not allowed in it. Is this... Are they in 2007?
All the music I've heard coming out of the bubble is Nas Street's Disciple and Young Buck straight out of Cashville. The hits of 2008.
Yo, Rashawn Holmes tried to leave the bub to get lemon pepper wings because all they were serving was Lunchables, sandwich wraps, and Hot Pockets. What's up?
I like how you just conflated 2010 with like 1987.
What was hot in 2010?
Oh, Cronuts? Or was that...
Is it Cronuts are more recent than that, right? Are we talking stuffed crust pizza from Domino's?
I've said this many times on this show, and I'm going to say it again. No one knows what happened in 2010. No one knows. No one can place it. There was
You know what happened? The bubble happened. The burger bubble happened in 2010.
And we're only seeing it now.
Well, it's concurrent. It's
the players all died of COVID.
It's a multiverse.
Sorry.
Yeah, sorry to break it to you guys. We all died of COVID.
Everyone's dead of COVID. This is all a dream, in the same way that Cardi B is actually dead in the wet ass polenta video.
We are podding from the afterlife. Welcome to Cookies.
Wet ass pod.
But I was surprised to see in a week's time a rash of an old school injury that, me and you have talked about. Like, we don't see as much. We see a lot of ankle and foot injuries now, and like oddly broken bones in their hands, like small tiny bones that'll sideline you for 6 weeks, but you look the same. So it's really odd to see this knee injury pop up randomly. It's totally random. There's no rhyme or reason to this, but we're not in the era of like torn MCLs anymore.
I think that's true. The bubble, these are coincidences, of course, but I like the idea that this is a time vortex. Maybe it's back to when the Phoenix Suns were relevant. That could be what we're watching, the spirit of D'Antoni and Sean Marion, the best player on that team.
Before that, even Charles Barkley and your boy Tom Chambers. Thunder Dan Marley.
Cedric Ceballos era, perhaps. But with these injuries and with the initial wave of, I guess, gratitude from the public and the pent-up energy that players had, the bubbles kind of slid off this week a bit. I think it kind of peaked with Rockets against the Bucks, and that felt like, all right, this is it. And after that game, with the injuries and other stuff, now players are resting a lot. It feels like we're just going to coast until the playoffs.
It feels like a normal end of a season where the Knicks should be tanking if they weren't in the woods with face paint on.
Yeah, it does. It feels like the end of the season because, specifically, all the playoff berths have been assigned for the Eastern Conference, not the seeding, but the 8 teams. Now that the Orlando Magic are officially in, and the Wizards are officially out. I think it was the Wizards that dropped out. The Wizards are now beneath the Charlotte Hornets in the standings, which I find amazing.
But this is what I mean by, like, I don't know what we're watching
The
because
Hornets, who are not in the bubble, just to clarify.
the Wizards are missing their third best player because he decided not to show up. Like, I don't know what we're watching. No Sin Bin. Major League Baseball has been a disaster. People are opting out of No Sin Bin football this year. Like, it's not real. It is real in that we're all dead and this is just a simulation in a multiverse. But we're not watching the real Washington Wizards. Sure, Bertans could be out if he hurt himself, but he just opted out because he didn't feel safe. So, like,
Bradley Beal.
Bradley Beal is not there, right? I forgot about their best player, right? I think Thomas Bryant's their second best player, by the way. And I think, because there was debate between Rui Hachimura with one of my buddies.
Thomas Bryant's pretty good.
I like him so much. I think,
Shoots threes, plays some defense, super long wingspan.
yeah, he's kind of a strolling basin as well. He can fill it up. But what are we watching? Like, first we have to deal in pre-COVID, we had to deal with load management and tanking, and that was confusing. Are we watching the real Warriors this year? No. And, I said that with such disdain. I love the Warriors. But I don't know what we're looking at. We're looking at something that's fun, but you're totally right in the way that, like, it feels like just a duty now to watch these games. The joy has worn off a bit.
Yeah. I mean, it's tied to, like, Simmons getting hurt because I like watching him when he's on Philly, and I'll still watch Philly games. But it was like, oh, man, you're the guy that we talk about all the time. We're not going to get any new content.
Well, the genius is gone.
Shit.
How are you going to have a pizza with no sauce? No sauce? Like, watching a basketball genius on the court is extremely awesome. And when you take him off the court, it has the adverse effect.
Yeah, but I think at this point we're just waiting for the playoffs to start across the board. It does seem that way. Mm-hmm. I think LeBron's playing today. They've done a good job with these schedules to make Thursdays some of the marquee days, and I think other ones. So you look at them; there are really good games. But LeBron didn't play against the Rockets, and I tuned in to watch it, and I was like, "Oh, LeBron's not playing."
Yeah, Russ sat the game. LeBron LeGroin allegedly.
But also, it makes sense. Those teams, who gives a shit about seedings at this point?
Yep.
There's no home court advantage. You're playing all in the same gym. Who cares? Yeah. Shake it out. Whoever. Like what? Like, are you trying to avoid a certain team in the first round? No one cares.
Yeah. My only wish is if we can. Did you have a cup of coffee? I want to preface this because can you handle this next conversation? Are you caffeinated enough? Did you have your sparks? Because I desperately want Lillard in.
Oh my. Oh.
Where am I?
Hello?
Hello.
Quo? Are we potting?
Are we still on this earth?
I saw this quick flash of bars. Just just lyrics. It was like Rap Genius just scrolling really fast, Matrix style in front of me.
Mm-hmm. I saw Common introducing someone who's a problem on the streets, and then I just passed out.
So you want to talk about wet-ass Portland.
I do. I want Lillard in the playoffs, man. I love Ja Morant. But Jaren Jackson Jr. getting hurt, I'm like, there'll be more Ja to enjoy next season in December. But, like, I want to see Lillard in the playoffs because he's at the height of his powers, and he's a fun player, man. Like, let's go.
I'm gonna be frank here, and I know that our beloved patrons wouldn't want it either way. The subscribers, I couldn't. I have to keep it real for you guys. I want to see Melo. Do
I was not expecting that.
Do I think he's great? No. He's all right. He puts up some shots. He's averaging 14 a game up until today. 41% from the floor. Efficiency, Tobias Harris-ish. Like literally,
not even that good.
But it's the same. It's identical.
Oh, net zero?
I just mean over this. I think
the
efficiency was both, at least up until yesterday, like 54%.
Yeah.
Because they are the same person. But I love it. I love the entire narrative that Melo, who's been okay, is jamming his thumb in the eyes of all the nerds who said that he couldn't play in the NBA anymore. That like the mild success of Carmelo Anthony is a refutation of advanced metrics, of non-net touchers. It's so great. Like, apologize for your nerdiness, what you said about Carmelo and how he was washed. Look at him go. He's like, like 4 of 19. You're like, look at him. It's Melo. He's getting buckets.
He's getting buckets.
I'm all
right
in on
now.
Melo.
I love Melo. Well, yeah, he reminds me of Joel Santana, who is getting out of jail. Like, there was a time in my life where I thought Joel Santana was pretty exciting, man. Like, I really love what the game's been missing. I love all those mixtapes, right? Back like Cook Crack, volumes 1, 2, and maybe 3. 3 was okay. But he's beyond the peak of his powers, but it's nice to have him out of jail, man. Like,
and to be clear, he had a wet ass peak. Like, he made it rain. Bring out the mop and bucket.
Yo, I remember seeing him perform at like a CMJ, a Fader CMJ, to like just a room full of people in Soho, and we were excited, man.
Wait, are we talking about Melo?
Oh, I was talking about Joel Santana. Yeah. No,
okay,
I've only.
Okay, I was talking about Melo. Okay, yes, okay, I'm back on it now. Yes.
Well, now I want to switch to Melo because.
No, keep talking about the Joel Santana show. I want to hear that.
Oh, okay. He was there. He was on time. He showed up. We were all waiting for him, and he got up there and did the whistle song, and it was awesome, man. Like, that song was fun. I cared a lot about that song, and he was nice. He hung out. I don't know. Good memories of Joel Santana. Did his career fall off because he was a Def Jam artist, and Cam had a famous feud with Jay-Z, and there's rumors that Jay-Z just deaded Joel's career by not funding him and never putting out a record.
I could see him being a casualty of label politics. I don't know that he had that high of a ceiling. But
Melo had a higher ceiling.
But I like Joel's, though. I liked him. This is not an anti-Joel's statement. I don't know that he could have been a huge star, but he was like shelved for a long time. I don't know how his third album really did, though, or his second one even.
What the game's been missing was the second one.
And then what the game's been missing, too.
more missing games.
Games.
Oh, it's just as good. Those games, and they're missing. But, you know...
A negative space.
But he was the beginning, right? As opposed to the end, because we entered an era of ad-libbers who were just kind of like vibe managers who ended up being some of my favorite artists. And we kind of abandoned the lyricism that people criticized Joel's for not having, because his mentor, Cameron, was kind of the best of all time, right?
Yeah, Joel's did have that distinctly modern style of just kind of using the same word all the time, or using a noise at the end, which is very on trend with like Playboi Carti or Lil Uzi.
Oh, for sure. Like, we got better and smarter as rappers and fans of rap.
If someone wanted to draw a line, again, I'm not thinking this through too much, but you could think of whether it was like Lil B, Joel's, getting to these guys today. There's a connection between all of them in some linguistic format, I think.
Yeah, I agree.
But can we talk about Melo for a second?
Yes.
Because this perception that he's embarrassing the nerds, I love it. But it's not getting to the real point. it's getting hung up on culture wars. What should be here and said about the Nerds is that sometimes it doesn't matter. Sometimes we love a player and they need to find a home. It's not, we told you Melo was really good and he can make a couple jumpers. No, it's that Melo deserves to be in the league because he's awesome.
Oh,
And
yeah.
that to me is a good argument. That's better than saying, you dorks, it's Carmelo Anthony, the walking vat. Like, look at the teams who had him last. They are nerd organizations. It was OKC and Houston. Like, the Nerds were the ones going to bat for Melo.
Yes.
So the point shouldn't be about math or whether he's actually good. The point is, Melo deserves to be on a team until he doesn't feel like playing anymore because he's Carmelo Anthony, a leader of men. That's what it's about. We want an NBA with Carmelo Anthony. The NBA is better with him in it.
1,000%.
And I don't care what he does on the court. I want to see Carmelo Anthony play, and I want to see him chuck up some shots.
I agree.
I'm here for that. I don't care about CJ McCollum's handle looking extra good. I just don't care.
Extra wet.
Melo, make it rain.
Yeah, I think, I mean, totally. And this gets tricky because I think all 29 teams, one by one, would say Melo is a cultural icon in our league who can still ball a little bit. Someone should sign him, but just not us. And it goes down the line, and then the the Trailblazers
We're talking
sign
about
him.
Joel Santana?
And, it just takes one team to sign them. This is...
And I get why teams don't sign him, and I understand the problem with a guy who was shown reluctance to take a back seat or wants to start, wants to be an alpha when you don't have a position on your team that calls for that guy. And maybe it's easy to say, Jared Dudley, you're going to play some. Maybe you won't. Whatever. Just get in there and play some defense and stick a three every now and then. Can you do that? And he's like, absolutely. And Melo's like, I want to start. I want to get some shots up. And you're like, oh, man.
Yeah, exactly.
But to that point, I don't care.
Oh, I don't care.
We need Melo in the NBA until Melo says, I'm out of here.
And
It's just got to be a decree from Adam Silver. Melo is all right. Suns, you're up. It's Melo time. You got to sign him for 2 years. Sorry, I know he's 39 years old, but rules are rules.
And back to the overheating calculators that are spontaneously combusting all over NBA America. I think that the nerd boomer debate is interesting to me, right? Because we've seen this with the Jamal Crawford chatter, being like, this guy's a strolling pot. Like, he is just a walking bucket, right? Like, why isn't he on a team? He dropped 75 points in his last game. Someone sign him. This nerd stuff has to end. And this is the conversation with Carmelo, too, being like, all you nerds were wrong. Take it back. All you doubters, where are you now?
He's an ambulatory pot, and he always has been.
After he shoots 5 for 14. But anyway, like, he's been hitting threes. He's okay. He had a big shot at the end of a game we cared about that we watched, I think, collectively. But it reminds me of this. We're getting back to Charles Barkley here. I think as NBA fans and analysts in Boston or wherever, we collectively understand how to value someone who creates their own shot. And we call them walking buckets or whatever. It's like watching someone cross someone over and chuck up a fadeaway 15-footer, being like, that guy can ball out, someone sign him. But a player like Ben Simmons, another kind of player, Draymond Green is a better example because he's very controversial. But I think for half a decade, he was a top 15 player. He was a basketball genius, but he did not necessarily score. And when he did, it wasn't, his shot's not pretty. He can't create for himself. And I think that's a deeply American thing in the way that Americans really value the self-made man, but not so much the helper, the assist, the team player. And we want to see people succeed in a heroic way. But to talk about the complexity of a Draymond Green is not part of our culture, really, right?
I don't know if this is distinctly American or we just like walking buckets around the globe. I'm thinking of when I was playing pickup ball in Argentina and how much more passing happened.
Yeah.
And that may have to do with soccer being their sort of national sport, what they care about. And I remember players would get the ball in the post, and instead of forcing up a shot that might have even been pretty good, certainly close to the basket, they could do a post move and try to get it up. They would kick it all the way back out and like reset the entire offense to like value the possession in the way of a soccer team. And I do wonder, right, if there is an American value to get baskets, or if it's just natural when you first start learning about basketball. What's the goal of the sport? Take this ball, put it in that hole. Who are the best players? The ones who do that the most.
Well, it's a volume game instead of a selective, a value game, which is soccer.
Yeah, because soccer only has, you might win a game 2-1. In basketball, okay, we scored 100 points. Who scored the most? That's like the first thing.
Yeah.
When you ask me about a game, like what happened? Like, oh yeah, Golden State won. Curry had 40.
Yeah.
Like even we do it, and we're here preaching the opposite, but we still do it. We don't say like, oh yeah, Draymond had 4 blocks and 9 assists, 2 steals. Mm-hmm. Like, nah, Clay went off. Prom kinged it up for like 42. Mm-hmm. Didn't play any defense.
I mean, it's interesting comparing it to other sports, no Simbin, because when I say value in soccer, it is not just enough to put a shot on a goal because it negates a possession that's really hard to manufacture. You want to take the right shot, and patience is like a virtue in soccer, and I in my opinion. And in basketball, there's some of that, but it's different because it's a volume game. It's, like if the Bub 2 ever happened, I want 2 active balls in a game. I think that would be hilarious, because there's no offsides in basketball. But anyway, I think when I say deeply American, and I don't really want to talk about politics necessarily, but the idea of like getting, pulling up your bootstraps is like a capitalist idea, I think. And I think basketball is a capitalist game because it's volume. And I think the dominant player could really change the outcome in a way that other sports, it's like baseball or hockey, is not as apparent. But I think the way we celebrate a player like Zion Williamson is interesting to me, and the way we're already criticizing LaMelo Ball, like this is it in a nutshell, right? I think LaMelo Ball is a top-tier prospect who should be drafted number 1 without hesitation. But that was the story around Zion, who's proving to be a more complicated and amazing story than we thought, right?
So Zion Williamson, the first pick in the last draft, teams dreamt of getting him.
Most hyped player since Ben Simmons.
And I think far more so.
Since LeBron, maybe.
I think that's accurate. I mean, he was an absolute phenomenon due to his ability to just leap out of the gym.
For sure.
And be a guy who's built like a refrigerator while doing it. So through wagon. 4 games in the bubble, he has been on a minutes restriction. So he's only been playing 19 minutes a game. And he's averaging 17 points in those 19 minutes.
He was 8 for 8 at one point in one game.
And on close to 60% shooting. So he's hyper efficient. But again, he's scoring almost a point a minute. So like you do the math. By this ratio, if he played 36 minutes, he'd be scoring like 32 points. He's scoring unbelievably. Mm-hmm. He doesn't do anything else. And it's very weird.
I love it.
He's averaging 3.5 total rebounds, 2 assists, does not have a steal, does not have a block, and has not made a 3. He's attempted
1. It's incredible.
Fascinating player.
He has, not only does he have his own corsage, he's got corsages for the crew. He's rented the limo. Everyone's tuxes are paid off. Like, he is the prom, not only king, the prom, what's above king? God. He's the prom god, right?
He is waiting for that bucket of pig's blood to come dropping down on him and make it a wet-ass prom.
Was that a prom or was that a school dance? That was the prom, right?
I think it was the prom. He is a wet-ass pelican.
He is. No rebounds. No blocks, no steals. I don't care about the 3 shot. I don't think that's in his arsenal. He should probably just dunk. What I love about him is it takes this Ben Simmons debate to like its extreme. I want him to average 30 points on 15 shots for an entire season. Just dunks. It's meditative. We've gone to another astral plane, dude.
He's not particularly good, except that his one outlier ability
It's
is
excellent.
really fucking useful.
Yes. Yeah.
All right, give me a lot of points really efficiently. Done. You want to chip in elsewhere? Absolutely not.
He's like a video
what
game,
about
right?
maybe some boards? Nope.
Yeah.
All right, well, at least you can get like a block. Like you can jump out of the gym, right? No, I'm not going to do that.
No. Can you put your hand out for a deflection, maybe a steal? It's like, no, after I dunk, I evaporate from the court. So it's essentially 5-on-4. But as soon as the oop goes up, it's going down.
Look, I'll have you know that once we're back on offense, I'll be ready to give us buckets. Yeah, because there was some stat, and they were looking at the amount of shots contested. And I believe that, and he's playing power forward, which is, it's not like a center in terms of contesting shots, but it certainly is the back line of defense, especially from the help side.
You'd love your power forward to be able to contest shots.
Yeah, I mean, this is the entire argument for Giannis as Defensive Player of the Year is that he's a good help side rim protector. I mean, that's the entire argument. And Giannis has only contested, I believe, 7 shots.
Stick to the plan. Let's talk
in all
about
of
Zion.
In all of his minutes on the court.
I know this Giannis. This
Did I say
Giannis Pandora. Yes, you did. I'm sorry. You meant
I
Zion.
meant Zion has only defended 7 shots while he's been on the court.
I only say that because he's a delicious morsel that we can get into later. But I know Zion.
No, I have nothing new to talk about on Giannis. I'm just saying, in addition to those counting stats that are just non-existent in Zion's box score, ones that take a little more, like, technology or deeper data indicate the same thing. He's just not doing anything out there.
And like, he's still a rookie. He's very young. He is still recovering from injury. They sat him last game, so he had no steals or blocks for another reason. But we talked about this when he was drafted. We'll know immediately what his ceiling is. When he was drafted, his ceiling is the best player of all time. Just seeing his first few minutes playing, we can reevaluate on the fly. And I said, maybe rashly at the time, like, will he be as good as Thaddeus Young? So I'm asking you the same question. Will he be as good as Thaddeus Young?
Better than Thaddeus Young because his scoring is just so unique.
Mm-hmm.
It's just so unique and helpful to an offense.
He's a scooting bowl.
A wet-ass post player.
Yeah.
But, including these last couple of games, he's playing under 30 minutes a game and averaging 22.4. I mean, it's just incredible.
It's
how
awesome.
How much he scores. But these steal and block rates are not an aberration. He's averaging 0.7 steals and 0.4 blocks. The 0.4 blocks is mystifying to me. Someone that can get off the ground like he can, his quickness, his explosiveness, and after watching him at Duke, chasing down people, swatting shit all over the place, to have that not a part of his game is really surprising.
I love this. This is some like Brad Pitt Moneyball from the 90s stuff. Like, the player who looks like he can jump out of the gym can't block shots, but Robin Lopez, who can't leave his feet, just puts his hands up and he just gobbles up those blocks.
Not to get too scouty about it, but maybe this is a product of his size. I know he's explosive and we've seen good shot blockers, but maybe just being 6'6" is different in the pros.
Yeah, but there's some guards who get blocks. Like Josh Richardson in Miami was known as a guard who accumulated a lot of blocks.
I mean, Dwayne Wade, I think, led all players under like 6'4" in blocks, but he didn't block that many.
But more than a 0.4, right?
Yes, but I'm saying maybe our problem here is that we're comparing him to actual bigs because he can jump and he's like a large lad, and we should actually be comparing him to like 6'6" guys. And how many of those are actually good shot blockers?
I mean, this is why I think I'll continue to love him and be fascinated by him, unless he starts blocking shots and then he'll just be a normal power forward. He's the evolution of a player, right? Like, he is better than Thaddeus Young already. but it's something that I've never quite seen before.
I agree. And again, going to Dwayne Wade, the best kind of small shot blocker in history, and he averages 0.8, which is basically the same as Zion. Or not, I mean, actually twice as much as Zion, but
Right.
still not an impressive number. Even at his best, it was like only a hair over a block a game because blocks are hard.
Yes, yeah, they're very hard, and altering a shot is, as we know, almost as important. But the players, when Josh Richardson was blocking a lot of shots in Miami, I think it was no higher than like 1.2 or something.
Yeah. But also part of this is how does Zion's brain work? You know, what does he see out there? He's a young guy. He obviously was in high school, a year and a half ago.
Yeah,
So there's such a difference between the quality of play that he was accustomed to and the speed of the game now and the size of the players that maybe it's just going to be a learning process. But I also do believe that when you put those guys who naturally accumulate those stats on the court, they just do it. They
Yes.
just do it. It doesn't matter. Like here's Robert Covington. He's been in the G League. Boom. Steals, deflections. That's what he does. So I don't think we'll actually ever see Zion be great in those categories. Because
Probably not.
I don't know that he sees the court in that way. And you can get players to be more comfortable. They can get in better shape. They can get more disciplined.
Yeah.
I just don't know of guys who went from being inactive to highly active in terms of their sort of ability to be a chaos agent.
Exactly. We want to give Zion the space to improve, and I think he will. He's going to get better at these things, and there's going to be some games where he has 4 blocks, right? And it's giving him a lot of leash when there are rookies who enter the league who are just excellent at stuff like blocking shots and who are the same age. For example, Jaren Jackson Jr., right? And Trae Young might become a good defender eventually. We've seen small guys be effective out there and not hurt their team. Kyrie Irving got to be a better defender for sure. But what we see in Zion, to your point, which I think is correct, it's like there is some truth to these game logs. These game logs aren't lying, right? And they will shift, but the mean tells us that through everything we've seen Zion do, which is not much yet, is that he may not see the court in the same way, and he may not move his limbs in the same way.
And it could also be a product of how the pro game is different from the college game, where he's guarding guys who are 19 years old, maybe 6'8", but don't have great jumpers. They're not Ersan Ilyasova, who's just going to stand 25 feet away from the basket and make Zion guard him or not.
Right.
So, he's not accustomed to that. And maybe when, some 6'8" dude who's going to end up being a car salesman is trying to post him up and does a turnaround and Zion smashes the shot into the crowd, that's just not something that's available for him to do at the NBA level. That's not part of the game. There is no 6'8" chump who's trying to post up Zion Williamson.
Yeah. This is the 10,000 hours debate, which I love. Can he change, or is this what he is?
I think this is what he is. I
agree.
I think he could become a better rebounder. He can become a better defender. He can be in the right place more. He can be more in better shape and more active. When you see him on certain possessions, he doesn't move. He's slow to rotate, and I don't think it's because he's dumb. I don't think it's because he's in terrible shape. I think it's a combination of inexperience, maybe not being that well conditioned, and just not seeing it right yet.
Yeah. Yeah, he sees every player sees an opportunity to do something in a different way, and he processes things in a certain way right now. If he continues at this rate of being super efficient at shooting and dunking and doing nothing else, he will be my favorite player. I can't wait.
He's Allen Houston, except with dunks instead of threes.
I mean, both prom kings for sure, but Zion has potential to be prom god.
We also, we don't need to get in comparisons with Simmons, but it is wild that Zion doesn't shoot threes and no one cares. No one talks about it. He took a couple.
It's because he can't pass.
But it was even he can't pass. It was even the optics of his first game. Yeah. He made 4 threes and basically never made threes again.
Yeah.
He like great timing to set the precedent of like Zion can shoot,
Yeah.
and then he just never really shot again.
Well, yeah, I felt like Simmons's issue with his perception was always that he was a great passer and dribbler and he was fast. So people equate those skills with also being able to shoot. All Simmons had to be was a bad passer and no one would talk about his shooting.
I know, right? Just be slow.
Yeah. Yeah. Just be slower, more out of shape, not good at 3 or 4 other things, and no one will talk about your shooting. And you'll still be an all-star.
He fucked that up.
Yeah, Simmons is too good. And this happens all the time in like pop culture and fashion and restaurants. Like you get to a point where like you're good enough where you have more to lose.
So Zion went 4 for 4 from 3 in his first game, and then made
Two more.
2 more over the duration of the next 20 games.
But only
20 plus
attempted
games.
like 6 or 7 threes.
Yeah, and I don't care. I'm not knocking it.
Yeah.
It's just good timing by him to knock down those 4 in game 1 when everyone was watching.
And like the buzz around him has definitely subsided. I think I don't know what kind of fan we are right now in this time traveling bub, but I feel like the NBA really forced their own hand by getting him in to this bub and on TV and having the field be bigger to have the Pelicans in it. And like I think we're talking about him now, so it's awesome, but the buzz isn't quite around Zion anymore, right? Like it's around our stars. It's around Giannis, to be honest, because Giannis is finally on TV.
Yeah, it's about Giannis and LeBron and Harden. Mm-hmm. I mean, those are the guys this
And
year.
Embiid.
Embiid. I mean, these are the main guys. Kawhi.
Oh my God, Kawhi's so popular, man.
I mean, Kawhi and PG are amazing, but they're also kind of just dry.
Yeah, as we're recording this, I have the
Dry ass personnel.
I'm watching the Clippers game in the background, and like, I love PG so much. I think he's criminally underrated, but he doesn't have the gravitas that a Melo has, you know?
Paul George is kind of the perfect basketball player in a lot of ways,
Yeah, I agree.
but he also is not quite a top 10 player. Maybe sometimes.
Oh, I got him there.
He's close.
Yeah.
He's a wonderful player, but there's something slightly missing, and I don't know exactly what it is.
Yeah,
it's not
what
even
is
part of his. I don't know.
I got him top 10 for sure. I got him above Jimmy Butler, who I love.
I don't really know what the problem with Paul George is. He's a great two-way player, can really shoot, good enough ball handler and passer to run a pick and roll, even if he's not, ideally suited to run an offense. I think he's just a little too conventional for me.
He is so conventional. He's a standard issue player, a great player.
Yeah, he's kind of apex creative player.
Yep. Like, yeah,
Like
right.
Push the sliders up. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
He fits under what you're saying. He's like a capitalist. He does it all. He doesn't really have any weaknesses. And then you look back and you're like, no, he only average 3 assists a game, 3 turnovers. Like that's kind of an issue. You have a 1-to-1 assist to turnover ratio.
Well, that's
or
right.
not an exceptional one at least.
But
year
that's
was
what makes
3.8
him
to
not
2.6.
LeBron. If he could do that, he would just be the best player in the NBA, right?
Yeah, I think that's what it is. He's sliders are pushed all the way up on very conventional stuff. He just doesn't have that other weirdo skill. He's not quite weird enough. Mm-hmm. And that's how I feel about Jason Tatum. It's how I feel about Kawhi. Why those players don't have that much. I'm just not that intrigued by them. I think they're good players. I think Kawhi is awesome. If people put him as the best player in the NBA, I don't agree, but I'm also fine with it. Sure.
Yeah.
Cool.
I mean, I think Kawhi doesn't quite fit because he is a uniquely incredible defender to me, who all of a sudden started hitting huge, monstrous shots, But I don't have him. I know what you mean. The Tatum, Paul George model. It's like we don't want friends like that. We want friends like Zion, right? Like we want friends like Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid. That's why, I am not a Philly fan post Iverson necessarily, but these two guys have so much gravity to me that it's hard not to love them and root for them and hope for their success because they're the type of kind of people I want to be around.
So, we mentioned the Suns earlier, and I was I wasn't really dogging them, but I was saying this was not a good team. And they've played well, and it's changing our perception because we forgot what they look like. We stopped watching them months ago. Mm-hmm. And there is a fun element to new blood. Okay, Ayton, Booker, Rubio, Bridges. Okay, this is a new team. Okay, all right. We haven't seen this team too much. What if they're actually okay? What if we can get them into the playoffs and they can beat somebody? Like, give us a new look.
Jeremy Lin, Shake Milton, we talked about this. New blood, for sure. It's something we all hunger for.
And I think, I look at the Suns team like, yeah, sure. Let's get Booker into the playoffs. He can, let's see if he can drop 50 against somebody. Let's see if Ayton can hold his own in the post against Anthony Davis when it matters. Let's get him out there. Let's see some other guys. Mm-hmm. And that's my only thing is not to put people to sleep, but Portland with their big guys back in Melo, that's a good team.
I love Nurk.
Nurk back, your boy Collins back, my guy Melo back. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's a different team.
Nurk
because
is
of the
awesome.
return of those big guys, both of them.
Pushing Whiteside to the bench is amazing.
Yeah.
It's a team constructed to win a bunch of games in the playoffs, I think, if they can stay awake.
They got a guy who can make very difficult threes from very far away. They have McCollum, who's just son of a volume scorer. Mm-hmm. They can create shots.
I like Gary Trent Jr.
Like him too. They take a lot of threes. They've got some big guys. Portland's not going to be an easy out.
No.
And it really tires me out to talk about them this much. I am beat. I'm weary.
I just need a soothing cup of tea and a soft chair to slouch my weary head in.
So just to avoid going into, some sort of slumber, like a giant grizzly in its cave, I need the Suns to knock Portland out of the playoff hunt.
Don't sleep on Portland, man. But yeah, the Suns is nice, and I think there's, I really love Draymond Green. I think he's fun. I think he's a undervalued player. I have him as a Hall of Famer already, and him being on TNT with his collusion, his tampering ways is awesome, right? And he said last night that Booker probably should leave the Suns because that is such an inept franchise that if he wants to be the superstar that he has the potential to be, he's got to hightail it out of town.
I mean, their owner does notoriously suck.
Yeah, but Booker's rumored to go to New York.
Perfect.
Yeah, it's like it's that Bon Iver stuff. Send him to the woods. Oh, he's got face paint on, the wrong kind of woods, not the Norwegian woods.
You can join with Kemba Walker and Karl Anthony Towns.
Yeah.
Perfect. We'll get into that incredible team on our next Wet Ass podcast.
Cookies.